Welcome to Heather's Pin Wins with Foodpocalypse. Now, I'm Chris, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Heather. Hi, say hi to everyone, Heather.
Hi, I'm in the title. This is very scary.
Yeah, you don't understand what it took to get Heather to do this, because you've always been kind of a behind-the-scenes person on Foodpocalypse. Now, from the time I started this, I had you proofreading my blogs. So any spelling mistakes that slip through the cracks, it's not my fault.
Yeah, it's totally mine. I take full responsibility for
No,
that.
she does a good job. She corrects my errors, and then I go back in and tinker more and put errors back into it that she never knows about. But no, she's always been there, proofreading, giving me ideas. And, when we started the Snack Attack Food series on YouTube and the blog here, she's just been kind of behind the scenes, filming things, giving me ideas. And I thought, what a perfect way to get her front and center on Foodpocalypse now than for us to do a podcast together, because you are always finding amazing things on Pinterest. A lot of the dinners we have are based off of Pinterest recipes. And what kind of got you started really diving into Pinterest and seeing if you could find, things to make there?
I think it was just looking for something different. You get tired of making the same few meals and just trying to change it up a bit, trying to, explore and find new things, branch out a bit.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this podcast is going to be about. It's going to be about going over some of the amazing things Heather finds on Pinterest. And you don't always follow the recipes exactly. I know you kind of tweak things and curtail things to what you actually have in the kitchen. And as somebody who's cooking, how is it to be able to take something that somebody else has created as far as a recipe and then to be able to kind of make it your own?
Well, typically, for the most part, I do like to follow the recipe at least once. And maybe then the next time, if we're going to do it, then kind of see like maybe what we would, what would work better, what's, maybe it wasn't, spicy enough or just was lacking something.
Yeah,
no.
Okay, no.
No, but typically, at least the first time, I like to kind of stick to the recipe just to see, what the author of that recipe
had in mind
for it.
Yeah, because I know we've talked after meals about, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, what we would change about it. And that always gets me excited for the next time we have it, because, you're always, coming up with ideas of how you would do things. I'm always kind of putting in my suggestions of how flavors that I'd like to see in it. And for all the recipes that you have done another time, a second, a third, fourth time, because some of these recipes are kind of like staples now, and you make them quite often. And it's always interesting to see how they turn out the second or third time compared to the first time. Like when you followed the recipes exactly to a T. It's always interesting to see how much it's the same recipe, but how much it's just kind of amped up and taken to the next level. So on this episode of Heather's Pin Wins, we did a batch. Well, I say we. I mean, Heather did. Yeah, she's shaking her head. Yeah, no, Heather, this was all on her. We went to a Memorial Day picnic, and Heather decided that, we should bring something. And what to bring? Well, you decided on candied pecans. And anytime candied pecans are brought into the conversation, my ears perk up, my salivary glands go into overdrive, my senses are anticipating that smell that you get from candied pecans, and I am at full attention. So when you told us you were doing candied pecans and we were taking those to this party, I was excited. And you've kind of got a candied pecan recipe that you found on Pinterest that's you've done this several times. For our wedding, you made a huge batch of candied pecans.
They went over really well.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very popular.
My friend who invited us to their Memorial Day party, they all loved them. And so we were like, well, let's do that again. You were like, I got to do candied pecans because they love those so much. So where did you find this recipe on Pinterest? Who was kind of the author of this recipe?
So it came off of the website livewellbakeoften.com. And I don't know if it was just knowing how much you enjoyed them, like getting bag of candied pecans at fair time. I think that was kind of what started me on this. I think I'm going to try to make those.
Yeah, disclosure, I am a sucker for a bag of candied pecans. I don't care where it is. Probably the first time I tried them, my mom got a bag at the fair, and I was a picky eater. I make no bones about it on any of these podcasts. I was a picky eater growing up, so there was a lot of things I hadn't tried. And my mom had a bag of candied pecans one time, and I was a full-grown adult. And she's like, here, you want to try these? I was like, yeah. I started kind of getting into food and becoming, quote-unquote, a foodie. And I was like, yeah, I want to try those. And I just fell in love with candied pecans. So yeah, anytime we go to a fair, I'm always looking for the candied pecan stand. I want to buy the biggest bag of candied pecans they have. I don't care what the price is. Name your price, double it, and that's what I'll pay for candied pecans. If I had a sign on me that said candied pecan sucker, that they could see me coming a mile away, candied pecan vendors from state fairs to county fairs all over the tri-state area would make a killing because I would pay any price.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite smells at the fair, the roasted nuts, the candied pecans. That stand, you can usually smell it from 50 feet away, if not farther. It's just, it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about this time. Well, yeah, this time of year. Here, especially in Northwest Pennsylvania, there's tons of fairs and carnivals, and luckily we're going to start to get some of those back. But yeah, that's one of my favorite things about fairs is that smell. Candied pecans is one of the most predominant smells, I think, because of the cinnamon. And and I know you love that smell just as much as I do.
Yeah, in fact, if anyone knows where we can find a candle that smells like candied pecans, please message Chris because I would love that.
our house would smell like candied pecans all the time. You would have to make them all the time because if I'm smelling candied pecans, I need to then be able to procure some and enjoy them.
That's true.
Not long after.
That's true. Maybe this is a bad idea. Never mind.
So, we talked about my first time trying candied pecans. When was the first time you ever tried candied pecans?
That was actually probably because of you. I probably had them at some fair or festival that we were at because I, much like you, was a very picky child and would not have eaten any type of nuts whatsoever and would pick them out of any cookie if I found them or just refuse to eat whatever it was in general because there were nuts in it.
So because of, you had kind of developed this taste for candied pecans and you knew I loved them, you had the wherewithal to think that, you could do these and one, save me a lot of money and two, win my heart with candied pecans. I mean, you already had my heart, but...
That sealed the deal.
that helped. But you decided to do this recipe and kind of give everybody a rundown of what is in the making of candied pecans.
Okay, so it's actually a really simple recipe. There's not very many ingredients. It's not overly complicated. And the basis of the recipe, and I always seem to double it because I'm always making a large batch, it seems. So the basic recipe just calls for pecan halves, an egg, a little bit of water, sugar, cinnamon, salt, and that's it. I mean, it's really simple.
Yeah, and of course we're going to have the link to this recipe and this website in the description, so you can kind of go to that and get the exact recipe. I don't want to step on anybody's toes about that, because these creators create these recipes, and I want to send anybody listening to that. But yeah, that's really quite simple when you think about it. And of course, you mix all that up and then you bake it.
Yep, it bakes on a parchment-lined baking sheet for just an hour or 45 minutes, and you just need to stir it every 15 minutes or so. And if you're doing it for nothing else, the smell of your house will be amazing. I mean,
you made these the other day, and the house smelled heavenly. It's kind of what I imagine heaven probably smells like: candied pecans. Forget Kevin Costner; it doesn't smell like a cornfield. It smells like candied pecans. And of course, you kind of tweak this recipe. Tell everyone kind of what you did to make this recipe your own. You added a little something to this.
Yeah, I like to add a little bit of vanilla Like not a ton. I mean, I don't think we actually. I don't usually measure it. Just kind of a little splash of vanilla, and sometimes I will add more cinnamon than the recipe calls for because I love cinnamon.
She does love cinnamon. Anything that has a cinnamon flavor to it, cinnamon base. My wife loves it. Ice cream. We go to this one ice cream shop, Casey's Ice Cream and Candies here locally in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and you mix it up sometimes, but for the most part, it is their cinnamon bun ice cream that you love. So, what kind of started you loving cinnamon?
I don't know. It's probably cinnamon sugar. It's that I don't know. I've just always loved it, even as a kid, even if it was just something as simple as cinnamon sugar on toast.
Yeah. Oh, my mom used to make that for us all the time when we were kids, and I love cinnamon. Maybe not quite as hardcore as you do, but because you really do love cinnamon. But yeah, that it is such a great smell. It's such a great taste, and I wondered if maybe you would add a little extra cinnamon into that.
Absolutely.
and that's one of the things I'm gonna take one of these. We've got a small bowl of these candied pecans, and I'm gonna kind of give my reaction right now. We won't be able to do this for every Heather's Pinwin podcast because I can't have a bowl of whatever gnocchi or whatever sitting in front of me. But these are quite handy to have in front of me to try. And yeah, first off, you get that cinnamon. It smells of cinnamon. You get the cinnamon taste. That cinnamon sugar mixture is just, it's divine. And you really do. You can taste some of that vanilla in there as well. It's not overpowering, but you get a hint of vanilla. And it's just, they're fantastic. I could sit there and eat these things all day long. I know I shouldn't. Heather's looking at me like, oh, no, you ain't. She actually, her eyes actually said it like that. And I know I'm not going to eat all these, but I'm going to have one more. And they're just great. They're especially good when they're just out of the oven.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, they're so warm. She, sometimes, you remember in the movie A Christmas Story, when the dad is going to try and cut off a little piece of the Christmas turkey, and the wife's smacking his hand, telling him he's going to get worms. That's kind of what Heather has to do when these things come out of the oven. Not because I'm going to get worms, but she is afraid I'm going to burn my mouth. and she does smack me ever so lovingly.
Yes.
but anyway, this definitely is a pinwin, and like I said, you've made these multiple times, and they're just as good every time. Do you ever contemplate, is it going to be the same as last time?
You mean like as far as...
Is it going to turn out as good, or... Because I know when I make things, I'm like always worried that it's not going to be as good as the last time I do it.
No, I mean, I think the only thing you have to worry about with this is if you aren't paying attention. Like, I know we burnt, when we were doing so many, we did about 8 pounds, I think, for the wedding. Because we did them in favors. We put them in little cups, and they were a huge hit and really easy to make. But I think the only concern was the one batch, I think, might have got left in for about 15 minutes too long because I got a little distracted.
You didn't have a lot going on at that time of life.
And they started to burn a little. So that'd be the only, because then that gives it a bitter taste. So you don't want to, you just want to watch and just follow. Like I set a timer. I set 2 timers, actually, one on the oven and then one on my phone, because you're supposed to stir them every 15 minutes. So I set the timer on the stove for the 45 minutes and then my own phone timer to remind me to stir them, just in case I got a little sidetracked with something else.
That's a good suggestion, because I know with me and cooking and baking, you're left with some time sometimes, and you get distracted doing other things, and you kind of forget about what you should be paying attention to, whatever's in the oven or whatever's on the stove. And that is really a good tip, to set the timer on the stove, but then use your phone timer as kind of an auxiliary to give you those intervals of stirring and whatnot. But Excellent pin win, and I am excited to talk about some more pin wins because you've racked up quite a list of Pinterest recipes that we have just loved, and I'm excited to talk about more of them. So thank you for finally doing this.
You're welcome. It may be a one and done. We'll see.
No, don't say it. Say it ain't so. No, it's going to sound just fine. And I'm excited to do this a little more. You know, it's when I do a lot of these Foodpocalypse things, especially the videos and the podcasts, you know, you're always behind the scenes filming or whatever, but it always feels like it's just me prattling on for what seems like an eternity. And this probably is not much different because I have talked a lot, but it is nice to be able to interact, especially with you you've been so integral in Foodpocalypse now from its inception, just never kind of front stage. And I was glad that we were finally able to do this, and looking forward to many more podcasts with you.
Oh.
So until next time, check out our website, foodpocalypsenow.com. You can also check out our Snack Attack series on YouTube as we go over some of my favorite snacks, some new snacks, different snacks, and you can check that out on YouTube. Check out our other podcast, the Foodpocalypse Now main podcast. We're going to have to come up with a different name for that now, since we've got the Heather's Pinwins podcast from Foodpocalypse Now. It's a very, very technical stuff. We're just going to have to work out the whether twos and the why fours at some other time. But check out the podcast, check out the blog, all that stuff on foodpocalypsenow.com.